No, so microblading is a technique where I use a handheld tool, and it literally has about nine, there can be a different number of needles on the end, but they're very tiny needles and they're lined up in a straight row like this. And it creates a blade. And I take that tool and I dip it in pigment and I stretch your skin really taut at the eyebrow wherever I'm ready to place the tool and create a stroke. And I press gently and I just basically create a line or a curved line to basically look similar to a hair stroke in the brow. Um, this is something that can be scary for people who are just starting off because you can actually hear the skin. You can hear the blade going through the skin, like you can hear it tearing.
Oh no.
It's intense. It's intense. And so like I was saying before, it's not something for everybody. Everybody aren't good candidates for it. So if you have oily skin or skin with large pores, you have to worry about the pigment because you're just creating a fine stroke. You have to worry about the oil, basically dispersing the pigment throughout the brow and making all the lines blur together like one. Or the oil in your skin causing premature fading of the brows. So you just kind of have to keep that in mind. And then also, like, with tattoos, they show up better on some people than others. So it's something that started in Europe, but they will teach the class to anybody. But I'm going to go back and offer this to predominantly Black people. So why would you teach me something that will potentially not show up in a year on them?
Yeah.
So that's not something that I liked about taking the microblading course because it's like, I'm going to charge somebody this much money on a service, but I need to be able to recommend another service to them that I can do that will show up and benefit them more. So that's why I got into the microshading. The microshading is where I use a machine and it's like a cartridge on the end of it with a needle. It's similar to tattooing. However, we don't go as deep with the needle as a tattoo artist. We only go through the first few layers of skin. That's why it fades every 1 to 3 years. You have to come back for a touch up because it's on that outer layer of skin. And so the skin is constantly regenerating and creating new skin cells. And so you'll have to come back for a touch up because it'll fade the pigment out as you go along. But essentially what that's doing is the needle is implanting little dots of pigment all over the brow area. And it creates a shaded in, like a makeup, like a powdery look, almost like you just powdered in or filled in your brows with either eyeliner. Some people use eyeliner to fill in their brows, and some people have actual brow powder and fill it in that way. I started using the powder a few years back before I had microblading done, but yeah, it creates that makeup look. And you can create an ombre effect in the front. What we don't want to see is the old school method of people just getting their eyebrows tatted on where it's like just one, like a solid brow, like a solid brow that is not in anymore. We do not do that. So you can create a gradient effect with it. And so that's what I like about the micro shading. One day, one of my girlfriends hit me up, my best girlfriend, and asked me if I wanted to be her buddy to get my eyebrows microbladed. I didn't even know what it was. I never looked into it. Apparently, she had been doing research and asked me if I wanted to be her tag along because there was a discount involved if she brought someone along with her. So she was doing all the research on this person. I knew nothing about the artist, what their work looked like, or anything. I was like, sure, I'll do it. Yeah. So I set up my appointment. I got there and it was cool. I met the lady. She seemed really nice, young, hip, but there was a baby in there, like a toddler. And So I was filling out my paperwork, and I'm like, okay, cool. This is somebody's child. Like, you know, they about to come get her. It was her child. And the sitter never showed up to get the baby. So I'm sitting here with numbing cream on my eyebrows, getting ready to have this procedure done where she's taking a blade and cutting open my skin on my face. And her child is running around the room. She's having to stop like every 2 minutes to stop her child from doing something. The child is like grabbing my purse and my phone out of my lap while I have a blade to my face. I was terrified. I was terrified. So my nerves were so bad. I'm not good with just being forward and saying like, no, you know what, we're gonna stop here. I'm gonna reschedule because my nerves are too bad for this. Like, this is unprofessional. I couldn't say that, and so I continued and I let her finish.
I understand because I'm the same way.
That was very nerve-wracking. And so when I finished, my eyebrows, they were not how I drew them on. When she drew out my shape, and I was like, oh, that's a pretty shape, you know. She kept saying, no, do you want them your natural shape, your natural thickness? And I was like, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I didn't want them thin or anything, so I was like, yeah, that's fine. So I got up and I was like, oh wow, like these are really bold, like they were real bold. So I was like, oh, okay. I said, so these are gonna fade like real soon, right? And she was like, yeah, they'll fade. They're gonna fade when they heal, you know. They never faded. That was my experience with that, and that's why I got into it, because I was like, my experience wasn't the best, and I feel like I could get into this and maybe do it better. And the clients that I have, maybe they'll have a better experience with me, and I'll be educated on the subject enough to lead them down the right path as far as which service they should get and, you know, what they're not a good candidate for. So, and good with my hands, and I like to create things. And so I thought it'd be something that I could try and that I might be good at, because I just like using my hands. So I tried it, and here I am.
Right. Yeah, that was the reason why I got into real estate. Because I was like, I had like 15 horror stories, and this was just my first house. And I was like, there's no freaking way that this is how this experience is supposed to be. Like, there's no type of education. And I was like, oh, by the time I was done with it, I was so like frustrated. I was like, I never want to buy a house again. So I could see how you could go in there and be like, this is what it must be like. I am never going to have this experience again.
Never. And I never want to create that for somebody else. No. So yeah.
But as a side note, did you go first or did your friend go first? Like, did you go and your friend was like, no, I'm out?
My friend had her appointment first, but from my understanding, we talked about it later, and her little girl wasn't there. So it was just me.
Oh, okay.
And I ended up with the baby at my appointment.